Hey there. So, my next guest is a profile in understanding that you may need to learn more in order to get where you want to be. Because she went back to school and then she went back to school again and she taught herself this and then she taught herself that because it was required of her in order to move forward. This was a wonderful interview. I know you're all going to love it. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, I have a very special guest with us. I have Alexis Brutman, aka Allie. Hey there, Allie. How's it going?
It's going all right. How are you doing?
It is a beautiful sunny day in Las Vegas. How about yourself?
It's a pretty sunny day in New Jersey, too.
Wonderful. Okay, so Allie, I do not like small talk. I like just getting right into it. So why don't we begin by just telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Well, as you know, my name's Allie. I am the founding owner of Astral Clock Tower Studios. We're an independent game development studio, hard at work developing Crystalla in Unreal Engine. It's a dark fantasy action RPG about feline and rodent anthropomorphic beings.
Wonderful. All right. That gives us a ton to talk about. Before we do that, though, I start every interview with a single question. So I'm going to ask you just like I ask everybody else. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how weird are you, Allie?
Weird. Depends on what your definition of weird actually is, but
I'm asking you, so
I don't know. I'm probably a 9.
Why is that?
I've got a lot of kind of like random hobbies like that you wouldn't expect, and I rescue and collect cats. That's always considered weird. I don't really collect cats, but I do rescue cats and often have multiple fosters.
Wonderful. That's fantastic, though. That's very sweet of you. Okay, now this is the Gamerpreneur podcast, Allie. So I do need your gaming credit. I know you're working on a game. I understand all that. But when did you first start playing video games?
Well, I was first introduced to gaming by my dad when I was a kid back in the late 80s, early 90s. He used to play a lot of Doom and Wolfenstein on his PC.
Wonderful games to show your little kid, right?
Yeah. And then he actually bought me my own game finally. It was a Mickey Mouse birthday party. And you had to go through all these steps to prepare for Mickey's birthday and then make him a gift at the toy factory. And I was just completely obsessed with this game. I would dream about it. I wanted to play it all the time. But my dad would only let me play it like once in a while because, he wanted the game. So, but after that, we got a game console so that I would, stop begging to use the computer. And I started playing a lot of Mario Brothers with my brother. We had first the Nintendo, then the Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo was the one I liked the best. I still have it and all the games I had for it. We also had a PlayStation, but we only had one game. It was Gran Turismo, and we actually had like a steering wheel and pedals for it and everything. And my brother and I played that game until we hated it. And then we never got another PlayStation game for some reason. And then, after that, I mostly just played a lot of Super Nintendo. In high school, I didn't game a lot because I was a soccer player and I was really into sports. And I didn't start gaming again until my daughter was a toddler when I was like 25, 26. It's because I got obsessed with this zombie game on my phone. And then a coworker of mine is like, hey, if you like this zombie game, you'd love Left 4 Dead. And so like that night I played Left 4 Dead with him on my PC, and then I got completely hooked. I played through all of it by myself and the second one, and then never stopped after that. Just took off.
I love it. You looking forward to Back 4 Blood?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Okay. Next question. What are you currently playing, if anything?
I'm playing Neo 2 right now. I've owned it ever since it came out, but I never had time to play it. I started it over the weekend, and that game is a masterpiece. It's gorgeous. It's so much fun.
I'm not familiar with that one. You said Neo 2?
Yeah, Neo, Nioh. It's like a samurai Souls-like.
Okay. Now I know what you're talking about. Got it.
There was the first one where you just played as this this white guy, William, who was, I can't remember what country he's supposed to be from, but he's like over there and he becomes an epic warrior and he fights all these demons and stuff. And there's a whole story behind it that I don't really recall right now. But in the second one, you seem to just be a random person. Like, I think they probably realized that the gamers liked being able to choose their character. So they made sure the second one was like as good as the first one, but you got to be whoever you want. So which I kind of like. I get to be, you know, a female warrior instead of a male one, which really doesn't matter that much, but it's really good so far. The combat is so smooth and it's just like once I start playing, it's hard to stop.
Beautiful. Okay. Now you have been playing, sounds like pretty much as long as I have. If you had to choose one game though, out of all those years, all the different games you've played, is your all-time favorite, which one would it be?
Bloodborne, for sure. Bloodborne. That game is a masterpiece. I could never get tired of it.
You say that, but then I put you on a desert island. Okay. Beautiful. So that's the gaming part. Let's get over to the preneur part. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your professional background? How did you end up where you're at doing what you're doing today?
Okay. I spent many years in my early 20s doing all sorts of things, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was a veterinary technician just when I started rescuing kitty cats. I also was a waitress and bartender for many years. And then I finally went back to school I think I was like 25 or 26 to learn software programming and web development. And I did that for a few years after finishing school, but realized pretty quickly into it that I hadn't chosen it for passion. I chose it because it was like a stable career path, you know. So it's actually because of Bloodborne that I decided that I realized what it was I was missing. So I played Bloodborne like crazy. And when it was over and I didn't have any new content and I read that there probably never would be, I got really sad. And I was like, well, I'll just have to make it myself or make something as satisfying myself. So that's when I went back to school. Ooh, sorry, kitten is trying to climb my back. I went back to school. I got a bachelor's of science in game programming. And I met my partner owner, Tiffany, doing a group project for that degree. So we both have our bachelor's in game programming. And neither of us are game programmers now, which is kind of funny. But after that, we did a group project together. And after the project, I asked her, hey, do you want to maybe but do a project together, like, make a small game together for practice so that we can learn more. So, we came up with this idea that we do like a little cute adventure game about a cat. And, we thought maybe we'd release it as like a mobile game and do it in 2D. But we pretty quickly found that we had a lot of people interested in working with us, even though we had, no funding or anything to give them. But there's a lot of people who want to learn about game dev and get better. And the best way to do that is to work on a game and have a goal in mind. So, the scope of Crystalla kept changing. It didn't used to be called Crystalla either. It was some other silly thing. We just called it like code name Cat Warrior. And so we ended up, building a team and expanding the scope. And I eventually was able to kind of turn this kitty adventure game into something that I would be really excited to play. And which is what Crystalla is today, a lot different.
Okay. So you went back to school to learn how to program games, right?
Yes.
But you do not do that. What do you do?
I'm actually, well, at first I was our lead game programmer. So my kitten is in a crazy mood. First I was in our lead game programmer. But eventually I realized that we needed an animator and we didn't have one, and animators are pretty hard to find. So I taught myself how to rig and animate 3D characters, and I kind of took over that role for a while. And that's what I did mostly for about a year. That and leading everybody else and doing, scrum mastering, like, keeping people on track, telling them what to do. And then, as the team got bigger, that job got a lot bigger too. So eventually I also had to replace myself as the animator. And now I'm just the producer and lead game designer. Like I make all the major game design decisions and I tell everyone else what they're supposed to be working on.
That's wonderful. And how is that going? I mean, is this something that you had trained for in the past, or you just kind of thrust into leadership and had to figure it out?
It kind of worked out that I had those years in software development, because even though I was never the one leading anybody, I learned so much about proper project management just because I had to work within their system. And they had one of the first jobs I had worked in a pretty easy to understand Scrum format. So Scrum is there's this term called agile development. It's basically planning out your projects in chunks. You decide, how big those chunks will be, and each of those chunks is called a sprint. And so you only worry about each sprint. You got to finish what you're assigned in that sprint so that you can start fresh in the next sprint and meet the goals that, from planning out all of the collective sprints to eventually finish the project. And so when I started the studio, I immediately implemented the same kind of system. And I think that's actually part of the reason why we did so well. We've managed to survive and create something viable, especially with a larger team. We've stuck to that format, and it's been really helpful.
Wonderful. Now, how have you been able to hold all these people together? Because you said you don't really have the funding to pay them, right? So is it really just the vision that you're showing them, or is there something else going on?
I don't know. I mean, I used to ask people what made them want to work with us. And they mostly said it was my passion and intensity for it. I obviously really wanted it to do it. And I knew what I was doing. I wasn't just kind of messing around. If you come in and there's actually, things planned out, it's not just a free for all.
All right, that's great.
But, it's been awesome, working with people that are there not just because they're paid to be there, but because they want to be. I think it makes us stronger.
Beautiful. Now, on your end, before this call, we had spoken a little bit about some positions you had in the past. So I don't want you to necessarily bring up any dirt, right? But what makes you different? What makes you unique or special? Because you clearly have this group who adore you, they like the mission that you're on, that they're all moving forward in one cohesive unit, when for a fact that's not how other places can be. What's different here? What's different about you?
To be honest, I think a big part of it is that I had many jobs I disliked and bosses I wasn't super happy with. I always felt like I couldn't talk to my bosses. Anytime I would, it was because I was being, if hearing nothing was good and hearing something was bad, right? So your boss tells you they want to talk with you, and you're like, oh God, what did I do? And I never wanted that kind of environment. It's just so toxic. So I try to treat my team as equals and make sure that they know they can talk to me. I'm not just going to. I'm not the big bad boss lady. I think that's a big part of it.
Love it. Okay. Now, part of the purpose of my show is to be able to show people how to follow in the footsteps of my guest. And you've accomplished a lot. You have 2 degrees, right? And you learned how to become an animator, and now you're leading the studio. Let me ask, what resources did you turn to, or how did you figure out how to become an animator? Because you didn't go to school for that.
Yeah. I actually eventually, once I'd been doing it for about a year, I did decide to go get my master's degree in 3D animation. But before that, teaching myself, I used online resources. What I first did was Google everything I needed to know about, getting a 3D character animated or into Unreal, into Unreal and running around. So I just, found every step I could, did research on the different programs that I could use, found that Maya tended to be the go-to for that, and found tutorials on rigging characters in Maya, and then specifically rigging characters for Unreal in Maya. And I think the first 3 months, I just did tutorials all day, every day. I just jam-packed my brain and used everything I learned to rig our character the way this guy was teaching me to rig in the tutorial. For that, I used a specific tutorial on Pluralsight that I love so much that I still have a Pluralsight membership specifically to go back and refer to that tutorial because it was the best one I found. But there are also, I found a lot of really good resources right on YouTube. You don't even need to have a paid membership for anything to find almost everything you'd need to know. So when it comes to game dev in particular, it's become so accessible in the past decade or so. It used to be this like thing that happened in closed doors by only specific people who had access to specific things. But, once the Unity and Unreal came along and became these, publicly accessible and people could just tool around with it and learn as they wanted to, it changed a lot. So the resources that you have these days are incredible. Like I'm not even sure. I've learned more teaching myself on the internet than I did in school. Even when I went for my master's degree in animation, I felt like I'd learned more teaching myself.
That's fantastic. And I honestly feel the same way. I went to law school and so many years of school, and I probably learned more since I got out on the internet than anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. There's only so much they can cover anyway.
That's right. Okay. Now, Allie, I want to hop in a time machine with you. We're going to go back in time together. Okay. And we're going to go say when you first got into college. Okay. And you're going to get to talk to little Allie back then. You get to go up to her and you get to tell her everything that's happened in your life, all the good, all the bad, all the ups, all the downs. You can impart all of the wisdom and knowledge, all the experiences you've gone through in order to have her have a life that's bigger, better, faster, whatever you define to success as, right? But if there was only one thing that she absolutely had to know, what would you make sure she knew?
Happiness is more important than wealth. And I think that would have been a huge thing to know back then, since I chose something that I wasn't necessarily super interested in at the time.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Now I want to get a little more personal if we can. You see, I actually believe that we learn the most in our life from our failures, not necessarily our successes. So because when you succeed the first time you try something, right, you maybe luck, who knows what happened. But if you fail, you got to take a look at it. You got to figure out what went wrong to be able to move past it, grow, and then succeed in the future. So I'd like to ask you, what do you consider your biggest failure in life, and what did you learn from it?
Life. Ooh, okay. Oh, that is a very good question. I would say I'm going to relate it to Kristalla because there is actually one specific thing that always pops up in my head the moment someone says failure. So when I was first learning how to animate, we were like, oh, good, we have someone who can animate now. Let's make a little teaser trailer. So I spent like 2 months meticulously putting together this trailer and just learning as I went and kind of winging it and thinking it looked pretty decent because I didn't really have the eye yet. And I remember thinking as I was like, okay, this is done. And I remember the first thought in the back of my head was other animators are going to rip me apart for this. This is terrible. And, but I knew that people who didn't animate would probably think it was okay. And that it was the exact reaction we got. Anytime an animator saw it, they were like, oof, you need some practice, and every time other people would be like, I think it's pretty cool because they just didn't know. But I can't even tell you how embarrassed I was. I took it all down from all evidence of it away from the internet. I don't even watch it anymore. But it actually ended up being a very positive thing because I took that shame and channeled it into learning more and decided to go back to school and just got better and better and better. And all of my work after that was so much better.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, on the flip side of the failure question, what is something that you're working to improve on yourself today?
Today, I need to be better about my schedule. I get easily flipped around. So like I'm such a night owl. I lose track of time at night and suddenly the sun's up and I'm going to bed as the sun's coming up, waking up in the afternoon and starting my like night over again. I get totally reversed all the time, but it doesn't, I don't feel happy when when it's like that. I want to be the other way. I'll get it flipped around for a couple of days and then I'm right back where I started. It's just this nonstop battle, but I'm trying. I'm actively trying at least.
They say night owls have higher intelligence, right?
I mean, maybe that's what it is.
I'm exactly the same way. Like if I didn't have to get up with my daughter, I'd probably just sleep.
Yeah.
Okay. One more fun question to bring this in for a landing, Allie.
Sure.
What do you think something is that people misunderstand about you the first time they meet you?
Well, that's a good one. I've been told that I can be very intimidating, and I don't mean to come off that way. I don't know what I'm doing to do it, but I've been told a few times that it's like a little bit intimidating to talk to me. at first when you first meet me until you get to know me. And I think maybe it's just because of the fact that I'm in a leadership role. But I mean, I've even heard this a bit in my personal life. So I think the one big thing would be that I'm actually super mellow. I'm not scary.
I love it. All right, Allie, this has been a fantastic interview. Thank you so much. How do people find you? How do they find your studio, social media, all that, please?
You can visit our website at astralclocktowerstudios.com. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at ACS_games and on Facebook at ACS games with no underscore.
Beautiful. All right. Now, as we wrap this up, do you have any final thoughts you want to share or anything I didn't ask you think we still need to cover?
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you for meeting with me.
Of course. No, thank you so much. I genuinely appreciate you taking the time to come on. I'm glad we were able to figure out how to get this going.
Yeah, me too. I'm sorry about all the trouble.
That's all good. All right. And for everybody else, I'm going to remind you all, don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.